Hello, the internet. Welcome to the first in what could be several VFX tutorials. Today we'll be looking at a really common visual effect. It's simple, but also very important to get right. That's right, it's the muzzle flare. So let's jump into this guns a-blazin'. Eh? Okay, we are now in After Effects. You had to listen to my terrible pun. So let's get started. We've got our raw video file right here. What we want to do is drop it down to the little movie reel negative symbol here. That'll automate a sequence for us, and that'll be our footage. I've already got our footage trimmed to what I want to use, which is this excellent little shot here. Not the most interesting, but absolutely okay for what we're going to do. For the sake of clarity, I'm going to start renaming my layers. This one is going to be our base footage. So, to start, you're going to need a muzzle flare. Now, I use a pack from Video Copilot called the Action Essentials. It is absolutely fantastic, but if you don't have it or don't have the money to get it, you can just as easily go onto Google and search for muzzle flare images or muzzle flash images, and you'll get something like this. It's really handy. See it? You're like, but there's a black background. Simply done. You just change the blending mode to screen, and that'll give you a see-through, proper transparent muzzle flash. So I've brought in my Action Essentials muzzle flare, and you can see the difference in the quality. The Action Essentials, the one on the right here, is a much higher quality than the one on the left, which is the free one I got off of Google image search. And that's just to go show you, you get what you pay for. Both work just as well, though. So I'm going to reposition this. First thing I notice is the muzzle flare is a little big. The number one crime that I see with muzzle flares is that people always make their muzzle flares look like this. And let me tell you guys, this is not correct. It's way too small. Muzzle flares are big. And if you look at any movie, that will be true. The general rule of thumb when sizing is the muzzle flare should be about the same size as the gun, unless it's a rifle, in which case it's probably a little smaller. That even, could be a little bigger. We've got the muzzle flare in place, and we might be ready to pat ourselves on the back, call it a day, and say it looks fantastic. But we want to make this look as realistic and as seamless as possible. We don't want people to know that this is visually composed into the shot. We want people to think that it's part of the scene. So by doing that, first, we're going to rename this layer. This is the flare. We're going to duplicate the flare layer, by pressing Control D. That'll double up our layer, and we're going to rename that layer Blur. And then we're going to move it underneath the flare layer. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add an effect, Blur and Sharpen, and Gaussian Blur. And we're just going to pump up this blur. What we're doing here is giving our practical flare a nice hazy glow to it. It's a little touch, but I think it really adds a little bit of depth to it. Now I'm looking at this scene, and I'm also seeing that the muzzle flare is a little bit sharper than everything else. So I'm just going to go and add a fast blur here and just soften up those edges a bit. Again, to help blend it into the scene. I think that might be a little too harsh. Maybe 5? I think that looks good. So there we go. We've got a little bit better looking. But again, that isn't all. What we're going to do now is start adding in some lighting effects, because as nice as this haze is, we really need to show that this gunshot is illuminating not only me and my perfectly sculpted body, but also the background and objects around it. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to duplicate the base layer, and this will be our light layer. We'll come up here, we'll grab the pen tool, and we're going to start drawing masks around the basic idea of where the light would hit. So it probably hit a little bit here. It would hit on my stomach and my leg here, and it would also hit right there. On top of that, we're going to select the ellipse tool and draw a nice little rectangle circle rather. Now you might be wondering, what is this for? Well, we're going to change this layer to add, and that, as you can see, punches everything up quite a bit. And right now it looks weird, and it looks strange, and it looks like someone's overexposed our camera. But what we're doing now is we're going to animate it to look like only this part is illuminating these parts. But before we do that, we're going to feather our masks. And feathering essentially is just softening the edges so that it looks a little bit more diffused and a little bit more natural than the hard edges that we have right now on our masks. Feathering, when it comes to visual effects, is sort of your saving grace. We're really going to diffuse the light on the back here because, you know, it's further away. Okay. So now we have our masks in place, and now we're going to start doing a little bit very basic keyframe animating. The light hits at this part, right when the muzzle flare is. So before that, we're going to have to go one frame back, click the stopwatch, and drop that value down to 0. And to bring up the opacity, you just press the T key. And now, muzzle flare is back up. We're going to pump up the opacity to, I'm going to say 50. It was a bit harsh with 100. And then in order to sell the effect a little bit better, instead of dropping the transparency right down to 0 immediately after, we're going to go 2 frames ahead and then drop it down to 0. That'll give it a nice gradual fade out, and it won't be as jarring. So as you can see, it's starting to look a little better. We've got some light interacting with the environment. You know, we've got a nice little hazy glow on our muzzle flare. But the last and the most important part is smoke, because a gunshot just isn't a gunshot without it. It just looks flat. Again, if you can't afford the Action Essentials pack or pre-keyed footage, what you can do is get a black background, a black t-shirt or black Bristol board or whatever. Then using baby powder or flour, you can actually create nice little puffs of smoke. Again, they don't look the best, but filmmaking on a budget, it would be passable. So I'm going to drop in my powder hit here from the Action Essentials pack, trim it down to when it's just smoke, and I'm going to position it after the gunshot, and we're also going to bring it down underneath the gunshot layer. We are also going to rotate it to give it a bit more direction, and there you have it. We're looking at a really solid gunshot. And that's how you do a gunshot, guys. You can do a lot of extra stuff. Shell casings coming out. You can do a nice little heat wave to blur. It's really up to you, but this is the basics. This is sort of what you need, the building blocks of building a proper muzzle flare. Hopefully, you guys learned a thing or two. If there's a special effect that you would like to learn how to do and you're not quite sure how to tackle it, send me a comment or a message or tweet me or hit me up on my Facebook. All the links are downstairs in the crotch bar below, and that will be sort of my challenge. I will try to figure out how to teach you guys how to do the effects that you want to do. So make sure you let me know what you want to see. In the meantime, please be safe and be kind.